The prison floated in the cold space of the Vorka system, far from any friendly planet. It was built inside a hollow asteroid, surrounded by metal walls and energy shields. The prisoners there were not ordinary, they were dangerous, forgotten, or too valuable to be allowed freedom. In cell block 17, the guards walked carefully. They avoided making too much noise. Everyone in that section knew about the human called Rick. Most just whispered his name, Bloodthirsty. No one really knew where he came from, but stories about him had spread across the galaxy. Some said he destroyed a whole enemy ship with just a metal pipe. Others claimed he fought an entire army alone on a burning planet. The truth? Only Rick knew, and he never spoke. He sat in his cell every day, silent. Muscles like stone, face like iron. His eyes held no fear, and his silence was more dangerous than a scream. The other prisoners never tried to talk to him. Even the worst criminals kept their distance. To them, Rick was not a man, he was a beast in human form. But that changed the day the new prisoner arrived. She came with chains on her wrists and guards on each side. She walked with her head held high, even though her golden robe was torn. Her skin was soft blue, her eyes like glowing pearls. She was Lena, princess of the peaceful Yari race. Lena was known for her kindness. Her planet never joined wars. They believed in peace and light. But a recent rebellion had changed everything. A group of warlords overthrew her family and handed her over to the Alliance's secret police. Now she was a political prisoner, valuable, yet powerless. The guards led her to the only empty cell in Block 17 right across from Rick. When Lena looked at Rick for the first time, she didn't see a monster. She saw a man, tired, rough, but still breathing. His eyes were cold, but not cruel. The guards left without a word. The cell doors closed with a loud clang, echoing through the silence. That night, Lena sat quietly, trying to stay calm. She had never been to a place like this. She had never even seen a real fight. The air smelled of metal and sweat. The walls were rough, the light too dim. But across from her, the human just sat, unmoving. Days passed. Lena tried to stay out of trouble, but not everyone in the prison respected peace. One day, a group of 3 alien prisoners cornered her near the food station. They laughed, mocked her, and tried to grab her plate. "Pretty little Yari," one said. "Too soft for this place." Lena stood her ground. "I only want to eat. Please let me go." The tallest one reached for her. Before he could touch her, a large hand grabbed his arm and twisted it. The alien shouted in pain and dropped to his knees. The other 2 turned and froze. Rick was standing behind them, silent, his face like stone. Didn't say a word. He just looked at them. That look was enough. The 2 ran. The one Rick held scrambled away, holding his arm. Lena stared at Rick in shock. He had just saved her. She opened her mouth to thank him, but he had already turned and walked back to his cell. The other prisoners saw everything. Whispers started. Again, why would Bloodthirsty protect someone like Lena? That night, she tried to speak to him through the cell bars. "Why did you help me?" No answer. She tried again. "Thank you. I didn't expect that." Still no answer. But the next morning, when she woke up, there was a folded blanket on her bed. It wasn't hers. It came from Rick's cell. She smiled softly. Maybe the stories were wrong. In the days that followed, Lena noticed something strange. Whenever danger was near, Rick would be nearby. He didn't talk. He didn't smile. But he watched. He protected. One evening, she saw him staring at the stars through the tiny window in his cell. His expression was distant, almost sad. She whispered, "Do you miss Earth?" "For the first time," Rick replied. His voice was low, like a storm far away. "Earth forgot me." Lena didn't know what to say. She just sat there, quiet. After a pause, Rick added, "I didn't choose this." Lena looked at him. "I believe you. In the most feared place in the galaxy, Something unexpected was happening. A silent human beast and a gentle alien princess were no longer strangers. They were becoming something else. Not friends yet. Not allies, but perhaps something even stronger. Hope. The days inside Vorka prison moved slowly, like a ship drifting in space with no direction. The prisoners counted time by the sound of the metal gates opening and the flickering lights that blinked every hour. Lena tried to keep her mind strong. She remembered her home, the gardens filled with soft blue light, the laughter of her people, the music of wind chimes in the palace halls. Now she sat in a dark prison cell with rusty walls and the smell of old metal. But across from her, she saw a different kind of strength. Rick, the human feared by all, sat in silence. He hardly ate, never spoke unless he had to, and yet he was watching. Not in a cruel way, but alert, aware, ready. One morning, a young prisoner named Nilo, small and weak, dropped his food tray. Others laughed. A strong alien with 4 arms pushed Nilo to the floor and stepped on his food. The guards didn't care. They just stood in the corner, looking bored. Lena watched in worry. She was about to speak up, but before she could, Rick moved. He walked slowly to the center of the room. No words, just presence. The 4-armed bully turned, saw Rick, and backed away at once. No fight. No sound. Nilo looked up in confusion. Rick helped him to his feet, then walked back to his cell. The room fell silent. That was Rick's way. No speeches, no show, just action. Lena noticed a pattern. Every time someone weaker was hurt, Rick was there. Not always fast, but always enough. One night she whispered to him, "Why do you help them? They're not like you." Rick didn't answer. But after a long pause, he said, "Because I was once like them. And no one helped me." Lena held her blanket tighter. "You don't seem like the monster they say you are." He looked at her. "They see what they want to see." The next day, a loud alarm rang across the prison. A small fire had broken. Out in cell block 19, smoke filled the hallways. Guards ran everywhere. Lena started coughing. Her section was safe, but air was thin, and panic spread. Someone banged on her door. A prisoner, wild-eyed, trying to steal supplies. The guards were gone. The door opened halfway, broken by power failure. Lena backed away. The prisoner stepped in, growling, grabbing at her blanket. Then Rick was there. He pulled the attacker out, pushed him to the wall, and with one firm hit, knocked him out cold. Lena's heart raced. She looked up at Rick. His face was calm, but his hands shook slightly, just for a second. She whispered, "Thank you." Rick didn't reply, but this time, he stayed near her cell for the rest of the night. Like a silent wall. Later in the food line, Bone, a quiet alien who fixed things for the guards, stood beside Lena. "You know he used to be a soldier, right?" Bone said softly. Lena turned to him. "Rick?" Bone nodded. "Special Forces. Earth military. Left behind during a mission. Survived for weeks in enemy territory. Saved civilians. But when he returned, the Alliance blamed him for something that wasn't his fault." Lena frowned. "Why?" "Politics," Bone replied. "Some people don't like strong humans. Easier to call him dangerous than admit their own mistake." Lena looked across the room at Rick. He sat alone again, staring at nothing. She understood now. He wasn't bloodthirsty. He was betrayed. That night, she said to him, "You saved people. You were a hero." Rick's voice was quiet. "Heroes don't end up here." "But maybe," Lena said gently. "Heroes are the ones who keep going, even after everything." Rick didn't respond, but his eyes softened just a little. The next morning, guards came to cell block 17 with an announcement. "Prisoner 8043 Princess Lena is to be transferred." Orders from above. Lena froze. Her hands shook. Rick stood up. "Why?" he asked, his voice strong. The guard shrugged. "She's being sold back to her enemies. It's none of your business, human. Rick's eyes narrowed. Lena stepped forward. No, you can't do this. The guard pulled her forward. She cried out. Rick moved faster than anyone had ever seen. He grabbed the guard's arm and twisted it away from Lena. Two other guards pointed weapons at him. Step back. They shouted. Rick raised his hands slowly. Lena looked at him, eyes wide. Why did you stop them? Rick said, You're not going with them. For the first time in that prison, everyone saw something no one expected. The most feared human wasn't fighting for himself. He was fighting to protect someone else. And the galaxy, if it had been watching, would have been shocked. After the guard incident, Rick was locked in his cell for 2 days. The others said nothing. No one dared to laugh, whisper, or even look toward his door. Lena worried. She sat on her bed, eyes fixed on the cold metal wall between their cells. Her thoughts swirled like storm clouds. Why would someone risk punishment for her? What had Rick seen that made him act? She needed to understand. She needed to know who he really was. On the 3rd day, the gate lights turned green again. Rick's cell door unlocked with a click. He stepped out slowly, calm as always. A few bruises showed on his arms, but he walked strong. Lena met him at the water station. You didn't have to stop them, she said. He looked at her. I did. Why? She asked softly. Rick gave a small shrug. Because you don't belong here. Lena watched him go. That answer wasn't enough. She needed more. Later she spoke with Bone, the quiet fixer who worked near the machine room. He trusted Lena. He handed her a small, hidden datapad wrapped in cloth. Be careful, he whispered. This holds part of Rick's story, but if the guards find it, we're both in trouble. Lena took it and hid it under her blanket. That night, when lights dimmed, she powered it on. The screen blinked, then showed video logs, reports, and soldier records, all connected to Rick 7240, also known as Rick Thorne. The logs told a different story. Years ago, Rick had been a soldier in the Earth Special Forces. His team was sent to protect a neutral planet during a mining dispute, but the Alliance leaders betrayed the mission. They pulled support and left Rick's team behind during an attack. For 2 weeks, Rick survived alone. He saved over 20 local workers and led them through enemy lines. When he returned, instead of praise, he was blamed for the mission's failure. The Alliance covered up their mistakes by calling Rick a rogue unit and sent him to prison. Lena's eyes filled with tears. He was a hero, and they punished him. She read further. The title BloodThirsty was a lie spread by propaganda. It made people fear him so they wouldn't ask questions. The next morning, Lena stood by Rick during food time. She looked up at him. I know the truth now, she said. You saved lives. You didn't deserve prison. Rick stared at her, surprised. You saw the files? She nodded. You were left behind. You helped people anyway. That doesn't sound like a monster. He was silent for a moment. Then he said, Most believe what they're told. I don't, she said. Not anymore. As days passed, something changed. Rick and Lena sat together at meals. They didn't speak much, but others noticed. The silent beast of the prison now shared food with the soft-voiced princess. Other prisoners whispered, but no one dared to challenge it. Lena smiled more. Rick's cold look softened. Even Bone said, I never thought I'd see Rick talk to someone without warning first. But danger still hung in the air. A new warden had arrived, Zarnak, a tall, silver-armored alien who believed in control through fear. He saw Rick as a threat and Lena as a prize to trade with the Yari rebels. Zarnak called a private meeting with the prison guards. Lena will be moved, he said. We'll hand her over to her enemies. In return, they give us weapons and power. But what about Rick? One guard asked. Zarnak smiled coldly. Let the human try. If he resists, we put him down for good. Later that night, Bone ran to Lena's cell, his voice urgent. "They're going to send you away soon. Rick won't be able to stop them this time." Lena's heart pounded. "What do we do?" Bone looked around and lowered his voice. "There's a secret passage in the old maintenance tunnels. I've been working there for years. If Rick helps us, we might escape before the trade happens." Lena looked toward Rick's cell. "Will he agree?" Bone gave a half smile. "He will. He's already protected you more than anyone. He may act cold, but I think he cares." Lena approached Rick. She told him what Bone had said. Rick leaned back, arms crossed. "Escape from Vorka is not easy. I know," Lena said. "But you said I don't belong here. If they send me to my enemies, I won't survive." Rick stared at her, thinking. "Help me," she said. "Not just for me, but for everyone they've wronged. You don't have to stay their prisoner." After a long silence, Rick stood. "We do it my way. No mistakes." Lena nodded. "I trust you." And just like that, the most feared prisoner and the most gentle one made a silent promise. They were not just going to escape. They were going to show the galaxy the truth, that the human they called BloodThirsty still had a heart. And he was ready to fight again, not for war, but for justice. 3 days. That was all the time Rick, Lena, and Bone had before the transfer. The prison was quiet as always, but now something had changed. There was a secret hiding in the silence, a plan building quietly beneath metal floors and stone walls. Rick moved differently now. He walked slower, listened carefully, and watched the guards more than usual. Every step, every turn of a key, every blink of a security light mattered. He was preparing. Lena stayed close to Bone during the day, pretending to help him fix pipes and machines. She learned how to carry tools, open vents, and act like nothing was wrong. But deep down, her heart beat faster every time a guard passed. One mistake, and they'd all be caught. The escape plan started in the service tunnels, a dark, dusty path under the prison where only workers were allowed. Bone had found it years ago but kept it secret. It was not on the map. The tunnel led to an old cargo shaft that connected to the hangar floor, where supply ships landed once a week. The next supply ship was arriving in 2 days. "That's our door," Bone whispered. "But it only stays open for 10 minutes. Rick studied the tunnel map on a small device Bone had built. "We go through here," he pointed, "then up this wall. There's a blind spot in the camera for 7 seconds when the power grid cycles." 7 seconds? Lena asked. Rick nodded. "Enough for me." "Bone will follow. You'll go last." Lena took a deep breath. She wasn't a soldier. She didn't know how to fight. But she had something just as strong: hope. Each night, Rick trained her quietly in the corner of the cell block. He showed her how to move without sound, how to stay hidden in shadows, and how to breathe calmly when afraid. "You're faster than you think," he said after one practice run. Lena smiled. "And you're kinder than people say." Rick didn't reply, but his eyes softened for a moment. On the final day, everything was set. Bone disabled one hallway alarm and left a loose vent open in the wall. Rick secretly bent a pipe to unlock the main gate without a sound. Lena hid a guard's keycard behind her sleeping mat, stolen during food time. They didn't speak of the danger. They all knew it. If caught, they would be beaten, locked away, or worse. But they had already made their choice. That evening, the prison lights dimmed as usual. The guards switched to night duty. The others slept. Only a soft hum from the electric doors filled the air. Then Rick moved. He opened his cell with the bent pipe and slid the gate silently. Lena followed, heart pounding, clutching the keycard. Bone crawled through the vent and met them near the water station. From there, they slipped through a hallway, then down a stairwell. Every corner was a risk. Every second could be the last dot they reached the service tunnel door. Bone tapped the lockpad with a small spark tool. "This will only stay open for 5 minutes." They crawled inside. The tunnel was narrow and smelled like dust and oil. Rick went first, crawling fast. Lena followed, wiping sweat from her face. Bone came last, carrying a small bag with water and a stolen map. After 10 minutes, they reached the end. A thin wall of metal stood between them and freedom. Camera will turn in 10 seconds. Rick whispered. They waited. The red light blinked. Rick counted under his breath. 3, 2, 1 now. He kicked the panel, climbed up the shaft, and waved them forward. Bone helped Lena climb. She reached the top and gasped. Above them was the hangar floor. A large ship was parked with its lights dimmed. 2 guards stood by the side, half asleep. Their escape ship. Suddenly, a voice came from behind them. Stop! A guard had spotted them from a high tower. Rick didn't waste time. He ran toward the tower, punching the alarm panel and smashing it before the signal could go out. Lena and Bone rushed to the ship. Bone connected the stolen card to the control panel. I can open the door. Rick fought off the guard and followed them just in time as the ship's door slid open. They climbed inside. Bone shut the door. We're in. I can fly it. Lena looked at Rick. He was bleeding from the arm but still strong. You okay? She asked. Rick nodded. Just a scratch. The ship lifted off slowly. The hangar alarms finally rang, but it was too late. They were already in the air. Outside, the prison faded into the stars. Vorka, the place of silence, was behind them now. Inside the ship for the first time, the 3 of them could breathe freely. Bone cheered. We did it. Lena sat beside Rick and smiled through tired eyes. You saved us, Rick leaned back. You helped save yourself. No, she said. You gave me strength. You showed me what it means to fight for others. Rick looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, he gave a small, real smile. They weren't just prisoners anymore. They were survivors. A stolen ship flew fast through the black space. Behind them, the prison asteroid became a small dot. The cold walls of Vorka were gone, but danger was not over. Inside the ship, Bone sat at the front, hands on the control panel. The ship was old, but still strong. Lights blinked, buttons beeped, and the engines hummed like a sleeping beast. Beside him, Rick checked the radar screen. He was silent, eyes sharp. He knew the Alliance wouldn't stay quiet for long. Soon, ships would come chasing them. Lena sat near the back, wrapping a cloth around Rick's wounded arm. The blood had stopped, but the cut was deep. You didn't have to fight that guard, she said. Rick looked at her. I would do it again. Lena smiled softly. You never leave anyone behind, do you? Rick didn't answer, but the look in his eyes said enough. Bone pressed a few buttons and turned the ship slightly. There's an old moon ahead, he sighed. We can land and hide there for a while. The ship needs fuel and we need rest. Is it safe? Rick asked. Not completely, Bone replied. But safer than staying in open space, Rick nodded. Do it. An hour later, the ship landed on the dusty surface of a dead moon. There were broken rocks, old mining tunnels, and silence everywhere. The sun was far, and the sky was dark red. The 3 of them stepped out of the ship. Bone started checking the ship's power lines. Lena gathered supplies. Rick stood at the edge of a small hill, watching the sky. Lena joined him. Do you think they'll come for us? They will, Rick said. How long do we have? Not much. Lena looked down at the ground. You've escaped before, haven't you? Rick shook his head. No, this is my first time. But I've run from enemies before. She looked at him with surprise. You act like you've done this 100 times. I've only survived, Rick said. And when you've seen enough battles, you stop being afraid. Lena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I'm still afraid. That's okay, Rick said. Fear keeps you alert. Night fell on the moon. Bone lit a small heater. Inside the ship, the 3 of them sat together, eating dry rations and sharing water. Outside, the wind howled softly through the rocks. Suddenly, the radar beeped. A red light flashed. Rick ran to the screen. 2 ships. Alliance scouts. They found us. Bone jumped up. They must have tracked the ship's signal. Rick turned to Lena. Get ready. We're not running this time. Lena's heart pounded. What do we do? Rick opened the panel near the wall and pulled out a small blaster. He checked the charge. We defend the ship. If they get inside, we're caught. We stop them before that. Minutes later, the Alliance ships landed. 2 teams of soldiers came. Out 10 in total. They wore black armor with glowing lines and held long rifles. Rick led Lena and Bone to a high rock near the ship. They hid behind it, waiting. Rick whispered, Lena, stay low. Only fire if they get close. Bone, stay behind the ship and protect the engine room. Lena held a small stun gun Bone had built. Her hands shook, but she nodded. The soldiers spread out, walking carefully toward the ship. Then Rick moved. He jumped from the rock and hit the first soldier hard. The man dropped with a loud thud. The others turned, surprised. Rick was already gone back behind the rocks. They started shooting. Blasts of red light lit the moon. Dust flew into the air. Lena fired once and hit a soldier in the leg. He fell, and she quickly hit again. Her heart beat so fast she could hardly breathe. Bone shouted from behind the ship. They're coming around the side. Rick ran fast, dodging blasts, and knocked down another guard. He moved like a shadow, silent, fast and deadly. But they were still outnumbered. 1 soldier threw a smoke grenade. The air filled with thick gray clouds. Rick lost sight of Lena. Lena! He shouted, I'm here. She called back, coughing. A soldier grabbed her arm from behind. She struggled, but he pulled her hard. Suddenly, Rick appeared. He tackled the soldier to the ground and knocked him out. You okay? He asked. Lena said, shaking. Thank you. You did good, Rick said. You stayed calm. After 10 minutes of fighting, the last soldier ran back toward his ship. Rick let him go. They'll report back, he said. More will come. Bone came running. The engine's damaged. We need a few hours to fix it. We don't have a few hours, Rick replied. Lena stepped forward. We can't fight more. We need another way. Bone thought for a moment. There's a signal tower deep in the mines nearby. If we reach it, we can send a message to Yari space. My old friend there might help us. Then that's our path, Rick said. As the smoke cleared and moonlight shined down, the 3 of them stood near their ship. They were tired, hurt, and low on time. But they were still together. Rick looked at Lena. You fought today. You didn't give up. Lena smiled weakly. Because you showed me how, he nodded. This isn't over. But we'll get through it. And with that, they turned toward the mines, toward the next fight, the next challenge, the next step in their journey to freedom. The moon was silent again, but only for a short while. Rick, Lena, and Bone knew the calm would not last. The Alliance had found them once. They would return. And this time, they would come in full force. Their only hope now was the old signal tower hidden deep inside the abandoned mines. If they could reach it, Bone could send a message across space. Someone from Yari space might still be listening. Someone who believed in truth. They packed quickly tools, wires, the signal device, food, and water. Bone led the way with a small map drawn from memory. Rick walked behind them, watching for movement. Lena stayed in the middle, carrying a small bag and a stun gun. The entrance to the mine was a broken metal door, half covered in rocks. They squeezed through one by one and stepped into the dark. Inside, the air was cold and thick with dust. The walls were covered in black stone and old power lines. Long ago, this mine was full of workers digging for fuel. Now it was empty. Only the echoes of the past remained. Bone lit a hand lamp and held it up. The signal tower is about 2 levels down, he whispered. We follow the rail path, then take the lift. They walked carefully, their footsteps soft. Every sound bounced off the walls. A broken wire, a falling rock, each noise made them stop and listen. After nearly an hour, they reached the lift shaft. Bone checked the controls. "It still works," he said with a small smile. Barely, the lift creaked as it moved down. Rick held his weapon tightly. His eyes didn't blink. "I don't like it," he said. "Too quiet." Lena agreed. "It feels like we're being watched." As the lift stopped at the second level, a strange sound echoed through the mine. Footsteps. "They found us," Rick said at once. Bone looked around. "We can't go back." "We're close," Rick pointed ahead. "You two go. Find the tower. Send the message." Lena shook her head. "You can't fight them alone." Rick gave her a calm look. "Yes, I can. But I need you to finish this. The truth must be told." Lena looked at Bone. He nodded. "Come on, I'll guide her." She hesitated, then grabbed Rick's hand. "Promise you'll follow." Rick's voice was low. "If I can." Then he turned and ran toward the sound of the coming soldiers. The mine echoed with battle. Red lights flashed as blasters fired. Rick moved like a shadow, fast, smart, and strong. He used the narrow tunnels to his advantage, hitting from behind, pulling soldiers off balance, knocking them down one by one. But there were many, and they were not afraid anymore. One soldier shot Rick in the leg. He fell behind a broken wall, breathing hard, blood soaking his pants, but he didn't stop. Meanwhile, Bone and Lena reached the old signal tower. The machine was dusty and broken in places, but the core was still active. Bone placed the signal chip into the slot and started typing. "It'll take a few minutes," he said. "The signal will go out across all systems. If someone is listening, they'll see everything: Rick's story, your capture, the lies." Lena stood near the entrance, gun in hand, ready to protect him. "I can't lose him," she whispered. Bone looked up. "Then we must hurry." Back in the tunnels, Rick leaned against a wall. Blood ran down his arm and leg. He had stopped 4 more soldiers, but more were coming. He heard them speaking through radios. They knew where he was. He looked at the tunnel behind him. It led to the tower. He had one more chance to out Lena, and Bone watched the signal bar climb. 30%, 40. Bone said. Suddenly, the tower doors shook. Soldiers had arrived. Lena fired through the crack. One soldier fell. "We can't stop them," she shouted. Bone pressed more buttons. "Just a little longer." A blast hit the wall beside Lena. She fell back, her gun sliding away. Then a voice rang through the tunnel. Rick's voice. "Get away from them." He came crashing in from the side tunnel, swinging a metal rod. He knocked the front soldier down and grabbed Lena's gun. He stood between them and the soldiers, body bleeding, but spirit unbroken. "You want her?" Rick growled. "You'll go through me." The soldiers hesitated. They had seen this man fight. They had heard the stories. And now he was not protecting himself. He was protecting the truth. Bone shouted, "The signal's out." The lights on the machine turned green. "It's done," he cried. "They'll see everything." Rick smiled slightly. Then more soldiers came from behind. One aimed at Lena. Rick jumped in front of her. A blast hit him in the back. He fell to his knees. "Rick!" Lena screamed. She grabbed him as he collapsed, holding his head in her arms. "You did it," she cried. "You saved us." Rick looked up at her. His voice was low and rough. "Not a monster." Lena nodded, tears in her eyes. "No, never." Then everything went black. Hours later, across space, screens lit up on Yari ships, space stations, and planets. The truth was shown: Rick's missions, the betrayal, the prison, the escape. People watched in silence. Some cried. Others stood in shock. A voice ended the message, Lena's voice. "This is the man they call BloodThirsty. But I call him a protector, a warrior, a hero." Smoke still rose from the broken tunnel. The old signal tower was quiet now, but the message had already left. Across space, Rick's truth had flown like light through the stars, seen by thousands, heard by millions. And far above the dead moon, large ships appeared, Yari vessels, glowing in blue and silver, engines strong and steady. These were ships from Lena's home, answering her call. Inside the old mine, Bone helped Lena carry Rick to safety. His body was weak, and his wounds were deep, but his chest still moved slow, steady. "He's alive," Bone said. "But barely." Lena held Rick's hand tightly. "He has to live. He didn't fight so hard just to die now." Within the hour, Yari rescue teams arrived. Soldiers in clean white armor came down and cleared the area. Medics lifted Rick onto a stretcher, checking his pulse and wounds. Lena followed, refusing to leave his side. A Yari captain stepped forward. "Princess Lena, we received your message." The High Council saw it. The truth about Vorka, about this man, it shocked them. Lena nodded. Her eyes were red from tears, but her voice was steady. "He's not what they said. He saved my life. He saved many lives." The captain looked at Rick. "He may have saved more than that. He may have saved peace." Back on Yari Prime, Rick was taken to a medical center. Machines worked day and night to heal him. Soldiers stood outside his room, not to guard him as a prisoner, but to protect him as a hero. The news spread quickly. Human once called BloodThirsty turns out to be a hero. Princess Lena's rescue exposes lies within the Alliance. Truth shines from the darkest prison. People from all over the galaxy sent messages. Some cried. Some said thank you. Some asked for forgiveness for believing the lies. The name Rick Thorne became a symbol. Lena stood in front of the Yari Council 2 days later. Her voice echoed through the high chamber. He was brave when others were silent. He fought when no one else would. And even when the whole galaxy turned against him, he still chose to save lives. The head counselor nodded. "We believe you. Princess, Rick Thorne will not be forgotten. We will make this right." They passed a new law. All political prisoners would be reviewed. Vorka prison was ordered to shut down. The ones who gave the false orders were removed from power. Justice had finally come. When Rick woke up, sunlight was pouring into the room. He blinked, confused. The bed was soft. The air was fresh. It was not a prison. Lena sat beside him, smiling. "You're safe," she said. He tried to sit up, but pain stopped him. "Don't move too fast," she warned. "You're still healing." Rick looked around slowly. "Where are we?" "You're on Yari Prime, in a healing center. Everyone knows the truth now. You're free." Rick was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I didn't expect to live." Lena took his hand. "You didn't just live. You changed everything." A week later, Rick stood slowly but proudly on a large stage in front of millions. The Yari Council had invited him to speak. Behind him stood Lena and Bone. Lena had written a short speech, but Rick didn't read from it. He spoke from his heart. "I was called a monster, a weapon, a mistake, but I never stopped being human. I never stopped trying to protect people." He paused, his voice calm but strong. "They wanted to break me, but they forgot something. Truth cannot be locked away forever." The crowd stood in silence. Then came the cheers. A wave of voices rose through the air, louder than any prison wall, stronger than any lie. "Rick! Rick! Rick!" Later that evening, Lena and Rick walked together through the garden outside the council building. The stars above them blinked gently, like tiny ships waiting to sail. "You're a hero now," Lena said with a smile. Rick looked at the sky. "Strange. I never wanted that, but you earned it." Rick looked at her. "You helped me remember who I was. I would have given up long ago if not for you." Lena shook her head. "You were never lost. You were just waiting to be seen." They stopped near a small tree. Its leaves glowed silver under the moonlight. "What will you do now?" she asked. Rick thought for a moment. "I don't know, I'm free. But I've spent so long surviving, I forgot how to live." "Then start small," she said. "Stay here for a while. Help rebuild. Teach others what you know." Rick nodded. "Slowly, maybe I will." And so, the man once feared by the galaxy became something else. Not a weapon, not a monster, but a legend, a protector. A name whispered with respect, not in fear, but in honor. Rick Thorne, the human who saved an alien princess and reminded the stars that truth is stronger than lies.